Hey everybody, welcome to Investing in Cannabis. Great episode. You know we only do video when the really great episodes come out. And today we have Caliva, which is a massive conglomerate. They grow flowers at a large scale. They make vape pens, they make edibles, they have a dispensary, they do distribution. It's really a model for how it should be done and really example to lawmakers and Trump and Sessions that this business is here to stay. It's big, it's professional, it's clean, it's above board. Wait till you see it. You're going to be impressed. Getting cleaned up here. Do we have to have a mask? Oh yeah, here comes the hair nets.
Beard net?
I'm excited.
Yeah,
oh, and beard net. Excited for the beard net.
When we get the oil, comes out without any smell. It's just THC or CBD, right? And then what we do is we have like a list of terpenes or essential oils, other ingredients that we can put back into the oil to get the same strain profile. And let's say you want to make something that takes your headache away, pain relief. We can see the strains profile in the lab, and then we can see what terpenes influence that effect and just target it and put it back in the oil.
I hear people talk about like organic terpenes versus synthetic. Tell me about that. How does that
Well,
work?
a terpene is a molecule. Think about it. Chemically, it's just a molecule. You can have it in cannabis or pine trees or oranges. Thing is that when you do terpenes from cannabis, it's so low yield that for mass production, it doesn't work. You know, so people go through other sources like orange peel. They found the same terpene, they isolate it, and then we can put it back into the cannabis.
Talk to all you addicts out there that's got yourself a great big Joan and you done tried all the methadone and you just can't leave that heroin alone. I wonder, have you tried?
Dan, it's so good to see you again, man.
Yeah,
Thanks
great
for
to
having
see you,
us.
of course.
Thanks for having this beautiful facility. I think most people know, but for anybody that doesn't, what's Caliva? Tell everybody what Caliva is.
Yeah, well, Caliva is one of the largest vertically integrated cannabis companies in California, and we aspire to be known as the most trusted brand in cannabis for the consumer products that we produce.
So I want to get into that trusted brand statement.
Sure.
That's a big statement. But let's talk about just the products. First of all, I was looking at the new headset data that came out for California. You're at the top of the list for pre-rolls and flowers and vapes and what other products you guys, there's a big range of products.
We have about 30 different SKUs. The way that we look at the market today is we really look at 3 different product categories that are fun for you, product categories that are good for you, and product categories that provide relief for you.
Okay.
Because we've produced a lot of our own raw materials of flower and oil, and where the market is today, we've really concentrated on producing very high quality, consistent flower, high quality, consistent pre-rolls, and high quality, consistent vape. And so we saw the headset data too, and headset's a great partner of ours, and we're really excited to be well represented in a lot of their rankings. And I think it's just great for the industry, where there's actually good, solid market research out there. But for sure, what we see from consumers is that consumers are looking for brands that they can trust when they either continue to choose cannabis or whether it's cannabis, decision or choice for them for the first time.
And how do you build that trust? Like obviously with your own products, but then you also sell third-party products. So how does that work? How does that trust balance work?
Sure. I mean, in terms of the different product selection, it's really important for us to make sure that it's easy and convenient for a consumer to get everything that they want on a one-stop shop. We're never going to make everything, so we rely on really great partners like a Dosist or Papa & Barkley or Kiva to be able to create and for us to be able to sell very complementary products. But when we look at trust, it really comes down to confidence. So a consumer needs to have confidence in your product. And where does that confidence come from? Well, your product better do what it says it's going to do, number one. So just being able to have that credibility in the product. Number two is there has to be such a high level of safety confidence that a customer and a consumer has in your product. And then really third is just consistency of dosage and experience. So those are three real critical things. But what we found is it goes beyond the product. It actually goes into the entire experience. Where and how did they first interact with your brand online? Was that a trusted experience? Were you able to interact with somebody through a chat to be able to answer your questions? When you came into the dispensary, did you feel rushed, or did you feel like you actually had somebody to talk to for 12 to 15 minutes? The packaging, was the packaging informative? Was it helpful? Was it discreet? So we really focused on this, consumer experience, and we find when we do deliver a trusted experience, there is no better marketing than word of mouth marketing. When somebody has a great experience, they want to tell the world around how great of an experience it was. So we certainly, again, are building our business to be the most trusted brand in cannabis.
And you've built that business pretty significantly. The scale is growing. Just walk through the whole facility. It's beautiful and totally clean, totally up to date.
Great to hear.
Anybody that has questions about the legality and safety of cannabis should come here and check it out. It really is pretty remarkable. As you scale, how do you maintain that trust? I mean, you've got like 300 employees now, something like that.
Right.
What's the playbook like that? Do you spend a lot of time sort of building that playbook?
It's a daily conversation where, in a daily basis, we don't mention trust, but we mention everything underlying trust. So we exist to deliver against the brand promise around consistency, transparency, and accessibility. So we're obsessed about the consumer and about what that consumer experience is. So when we look at saying consistency of products, it's everything from the standard operating procedures that's why it's so important to grow our own products and raw materials around flower and oil, in-house packaging and production. So consistency for us is huge. Transparency is absolutely important. All of our products are made right here in our headquarters here in San Jose, under I'd say very compliant regulations, and sometimes overly compliant regulations that we instill on ourselves, but also what we use both in the plants and what our kind of testing results are, obviously very transparent and then accessible. We work really, really hard to make sure that if a consumer wants to get a Caliva product, whether that's in a dispensary, whether that's through one of our partners like Ease, whether that's in their favorite dispensary in San Diego, or whether it's through another third party, we find it's really critical once they've chosen Caliva that they have a convenient way to be able to get Caliva on a move forward basis.
Yeah, you talk about the different ways you can get it. It's really interesting, right? You can come into the Caliva branded retail store.
Yep.
You can use the Caliva just direct delivery, Caliva.menu, right?
Right.
And then you can also use Ease,
correct,
which may surprise some people that you have your own delivery and then also use Ease. How is that sort of balanced out? How do you make that analysis?
Yeah, that, and we're in over 100 dispensaries up and down the state who are really close partners to ours. So I think, again, our mantra is to work with the very best people in the industry who are providing great consumer value. For us, we're a very regional dispensary, so we're really focusing on the San Jose and the local residents who come in and say, hey, if they're new, they spend 12 to 15 minutes actually asking our wellness consultants what type of cannabis options they should use. Many form relationships with these wellness consultants. They come in and check in with them to see what's new, those types of things. So we think retail is really critical. For delivery, there's no better delivery platform in California than Ease when you look at saying, I need to get my cannabis solutions in a very timely manner for the most
like Verizon,
optimized price.
Have the best coverage.
Yeah, but it's almost, to me, their value proposition of speed and value is kind of unmatched. And then, we supplement that from a Caliva.menu standpoint on a very broad selection of relief for you and good for you products. But we also find our dispensary partners up in the state are like us in that they know their local market way better than we do, and we're happy to support them. I think our dispensary partners appreciate that we know how hard it is to run a dispensary. So hopefully we have the credibility when we're making recommendations and saying, hey, we've made all the mistakes that you don't have to. Here's the types of products that actually worked and sold in our dispensary. That's what helps us go out and have credibility with other dispensaries. So all those channels for us are really important.
And how does the new product development work? I mean, there's 13 grow rooms, and so there's 13 strains at any time, or more than that? Or
no, there's probably less than 13 strains. We probably have about 4 or 5 production strains, and we're probably experimenting with another, I'd say 6 to 10 strains.
And how do you develop a new strain or a new product? Is that like a think tank room that you all sit together?
Yeah,
sounds like a fun day.
Yeah, exactly. So there absolutely is a lot of experimentation, and there's a lot of focus groups that our wellness consultants, our product team, marketing team, everybody volunteers to do that. But when you look at, again, going back to the product categories, I think we've done a decent job in the fun for you categories, as shown by that headset data around our products in flower and pre-rolls and in vape. There's a lot of formulation, I'd say innovation that we've done in vape. Really our focus moving forward are these categories around a relief for you and fun for you categories. So what you'll see from us is looking at kind of broad-based categories in everywhere from the lotions to beverages to different types of product types. That fit in that relief for you and fun for you type categories. So the innovation that we look at dosage innovation. How do we ingrain cannabis into people's daily lives through microdosing? We look at formulations. What are the right formulation mixtures everywhere from cannabinoid formulations to actually terpenes, the types of terpenes that actually make it more effective, and then form factors. How do people generally want to be able to ingest, cannabis on a daily basis? Is it from beverages? Is it from an inhaler? Right? Is it from? We saw, I see every different form factor you could imagine.
Sublinguals, patches,
Sure, and people are getting contacts. I mean, people are getting more and more innovative on everything. So
that's intense.
So we generally focus on existing consumer behavior and trying to make that cannabis experience easier versus harder.
Let's talk about vapes just specifically. I see the 510 vape everywhere. Seems like everybody and their mother and their uncle's cousin is making a vape pen. You guys have done very well in this category. Why? What do you think sets you guys apart there?
Yeah, I think when we looked at the vape at the 510 category, we had the same notion. I was very actually hesitant of having a product line there, but because it was so popular and familiar, we decided to dip our toes into it. And I think our Sessions product line, given that we were able to do all of our in-house formulations, we really followed and looked at a consumer and said, what does a day in the life of a cannabis consumer look like? Is there something for the morning time, daybreak? Is there something for an afternoon, pick-me-up, afternoon delight? Is there something around a, get off of work and enjoy something analogous to happy hour, kiss the sky? And then is there something that actually helps me sleep, pillow talk? So we decided to develop this kind of follow the sun sessions, pick your session, find your session, and it really resonated with consumers. So they really found, hey, this fits into my life. What we're just as excited about is our product line around geos. We had seen that there was some challenges in previous vape proprietary hardware and having some of those pods. And we really were, I'd say, thoughtful around really going into a partnership with somebody who's developing proprietary hardware. And the Geo hardware and the Geo cartridges and the Geo sales have just really exceeded every expectation that we have, both through ease and in our retail store. And it's our best-selling proprietary vape, but it's also our best-selling vape. So the hardware around it and the experience, I think, is far superior than any 510 or any other proprietary hardware out there.
And from what I know, the licensing behind the Geo is a lot more favorable than the other one that we won't mention at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, they've been great partners through and through, so they've really committed to doing this, but the consumer reception to be able to at that experience has really far surpassed anything that we've seen out there in the market.
Got it. I want to talk about licensing a little bit and regulation. You guys are just the classic case study of vertical integration, right? Would you say it's everything that it could be? Is it everything that you hope for? Are you seeing the tremendous savings that come from stacking all those licenses?
Yeah, I think, like anybody who's gone through the process, we have a very complex relationship with the BCC and the licensing situation out here. We would like to have more regulation than there is, for sure, and we would love to have the BCC have more resources for sure as well. I think on a macro level, clearly the state is underrepresented in terms of number of dispensaries out there. Last time I checked, there's 418 licensed adult use dispensaries for a population of 40 million, over half of who voted for legalized cannabis that can't serve 20-something million people. So on one level, I wish there was a lot more licenses. For us personally, in terms of going through all the licenses, we appreciate the regulation. We appreciate the actual work that goes into stay compliant. We'd be doing that because it's actually just good business. It's the right thing to do for the consumer. We love that the BCC is putting these regulations in place. We think that they've done an amazing job in comparison to other states in terms of the right regulations. July 1st was a very, very good, I think, transitionary period for them. So we're 100% supportive of what those regulations and licenses are. It makes us a better company. It provides a better product to a consumer. But on a macro basis, we really wish there were more dispensaries available to consumers up and down the state.
It's a really refreshing perspective. Most of the companies that I talk to, they're like, the regs, and they're going to change again, and I don't know how to get my license. It's killed a lot of businesses, as you know.
Right.
How do you think you guys have traversed this so well? I mean, you're leaps and bounds ahead of many companies out there just in that aspect.
Yeah, and I appreciate the feedback. What's important to note is that at Caliva, all we care about is actually the making the industry better. So we really don't we never, put it this way, we never look at competition. We don't see anybody as competitors or competing against things. We see people as partners, and how do we help each other? We know that all boats rise with the tide. And our job, I think our collective job, is to be able to introduce trusted cannabis into people's lives, to be able to make an effect and improve their lives in terms of different types of options like opioids and those types of things. So on one level, we're in this for the industry. On a second level, the way that we've personally and individually gone about this is we're in it for the long term. So we built, from day one, a foundational vertically integrated asset to be able to deliver as an independent company for a very long period of time, to be able to produce great products. That means that there's a lot more capital investment that happens up front, a lot more planning, but that's paying off. But there was a significant amount of investment when we all said, why are we in the business? And what is the trajectory of the business? But when we talk about plans, we talk about 7 and 10 year plans. So it's just a different, I'd say, approach than a lot of other companies have been able to take.
And the goal has always been a profitable cash flow business. That never, you have an exit, or you must be at least a little tempted by the Canadian 4-way reverse merger. I mean, that's the times we live in. You guys must talk about it at least.
In all sincerity, we only talk about the consumer and what do we do to produce great products that will fit and integrate into their daily lives. We know we need to do that profitably, and we know that we need to do that on an economical basis. But when we look at the value that Caliva will bring, and ultimately the equity that we build in the company, it's all about that brand trust and that brand equity, and what do we do for that. So that is our holy grail, North Star, is to be that trusted brand in cannabis for the consumer. But clearly, in terms of financial planning and outlooks, in terms of being able to take in capital at the lowest cost possible, yeah, you have to be able to look at Canadian public markets, and you have to look at other public market items. There's no immediate plans that we have in any of that, but obviously we pay attention to that with the notion of saying, is that a right fit for our business with growth plans? And it's been great to see other companies be successful in that. That's really driven from, I think, consumer demand and confidence in what they see as a great substitute to other products out there, namely alcohol and opioids.
You hit it on the head, alcohol and opioids. I mean, at the end of the day, that is the best contribution that cannabis has to the world, I think. Like single, maybe it helps you sleep, right? That's a big one too.
Yeah, I mean, we have 30,000 consumers that come through the doors of Caliva. In order, they say three things. They say, I have pain, can you help make it go away? I need to sleep, can you help me sleep? And I have anxiety, can you help with anxiety? So I think the contributions to cannabis, while we are benefiting and support and all appreciate the fun for you category, which is it's a great recreational option that I would defend until till the cows come home. I think the greatest contribution with increased scientific rigor and study and innovation and advancements will be, how do we take a big chunk out of opioids from pain? How do we have a natural health and wellness for sleep? And how do we bring a lot more balance to people's lives who suffer from anxiety? And that's why I think growing from the 300 people that we are today to we're targeting 500 people within the next, I'd say 6 months. Everybody's mission-based. Everybody has a sense of purpose around what they do, and it gets everybody, putting that extra effort in on a daily basis.
Absolutely, yeah. How do you scale the culture? I mean, that's a lot of people in a quick amount of time.
Sure.
Do you still meet with everybody? Do you interview everybody? I mean, like, how do you maintain that?
Yeah, I think things work for different companies and different people. So I'll comment on just the company, and then I'll comment on me personally. I think as a company, we've really strived for people who are making long-term decisions. So people who are challenging assumptions, using some data, but also being able to use their own experience to make the right decision for the long term with the consumer in mind. We really look for people who are naturally curious, who just go beyond what they see and really challenge challenge what has been done before to come up with new and innovative ideas. And then this is an industry you have to be passionate about. There's just no way that you can be successful unless you have a passion either for the industry, for the company, for the products, for the people. It doesn't have to be passionate about all of those things, but it has to be a passion about some of those things. For me personally, what I've generally found is I appreciate, I think, number one is a sense of diversity in terms of viewpoints, experiences, backgrounds, to be able to come across a table and to be able to work in that mesh, so you just get different thinking and different perspectives, because in the end of the day, that's what our consumers are too, is different people and different perspectives. I tend to provide a long and open amount of autonomy for people to be able to get their job done, and I think there's two things that I clearly stand out to be able to say, here's what's needed. One is I try to give them goalposts that don't move every 2 weeks.
Which is a hard thing to do in a growing business.
Yeah, it really is. So being able to set what that long-term plan is, knowing that it's going to be a windy, curvy, rocky road to get there, but you have to be able to set what those long-term goalposts are. I think we've done that, and then I think it's leading by example of ensuring of what the kind of worst that we will put up with. So I've often found any manager or leader's credibility is determined by what they actually, what behaviors they put up with within their business and industry. And I know that we'll be judged, I'll be judged for that. So we are always cognizant of that. So those are the two, I'd say, guideposts around that. And we try to recruit people who both care about the same things that we do, and that would thrive into a high-performing atmosphere that's very goal-oriented with an ability to move around a long way, but hopefully make strides towards what we're trying to get to.
Do you find that it's tough to attract talent? I find a little bit of a trend in the cannabis industry of the highly technical people. Maybe they could go get a little higher salary if they worked at Genentech or more traditional. Are you seeing that, and how do you kind of combat that?
Yeah, it's a really great question. We're learning it. We've had some really big misses on some roles over the years, but we're narrowing that down, and we've recently had just amazing talent. So let me walk you through our kind of VP of manufacturing, who we just brought on, who's just a complete rock star. He had an insane, natural curiosity of how very complex things work. He had a really good understanding and appreciation that growing a natural plant and then manufacturing that plant into a product is really, really difficult to do, and to do that on a consistent basis. And he was an extremely good people manager who actually had a very high respect and great relationship with the plant, with cannabis. So that combo has worked fantastically for us. When it hasn't worked, it mainly hasn't worked when you dig into the covers because people don't realize how hard cannabis is. And when I say hard, I mean a vertically integrated company where you're producing all your raw materials in a compliant fashion, in an economical fashion, and going through the manufacturing and distribution of it. It's the most challenging, business industry company that I've ever been a part of. And that's what excites me and the leadership team because it's such a monumental challenge, and there's so much to do, but it's so exciting for the progress that we're making as well.
Super exciting. One of the really interesting cogs in that wheel, I think, is the testing piece. You guys do a lot of in-house testing, but you're also mandated to send it out to a third-party lab. Right. Talk about sort of that balance, and like the testing in-house is sort of peace of mind for you in a way, right?
Yes and no. I mean, again, regulations to me are just a lot of really good business decisions and doing the right thing for the consumer, and we just get measured around how well we do that. But regardless if there's regulations or not, we should be testing our product just like any other, FDA food company would and should. We test our product internally first and foremost to ensure that at any stage of the crop or oil that we can actually detect any issues. So we don't internally test to make sure that it's going to pass external testing. We test to make sure that we can test, measure, iterate about the plant health and the oil quality at every stage. Exactly. So we use that for consistency. We use that for improving the health and optimizing it. Does it give us a really good confidence level that it passes, that's going to pass a third-party testing lab? Absolutely. Do we think that there's a lot of work to be done in third-party testing labs to calibrate their machines, purchase more advanced machines, have multiple machines and multiple tests? 100%. I mean, I think if you had our team of scientists in here, when they look at some of the SOPs around testing labs and they do one-off tests and they're not doing, a panel of 3 tests and being able to calibrate that, they would pull their hairs out. So we think there's a long way to go in terms of improved scientific rigor around the testing for cannabis, and we look forward to both the BCC driving some of that, but we also are hopeful that the industry and the testing labs are driving some of that as they get increased capital as well.
When I see numbers, like outrageous numbers, like 80% of California cannabis has pesticides, or these outrageous headlines,
right?
Where's that coming from? I mean, it's not coming from these labs. I just looked. It's not here. Right. Where is all this defective cannabis coming?
Yeah, I think there was a fundamental shift from July 1st moving forward without question, and I think the industry saw that with the lack of supply and the lack of having tested child-proof packaging products on the shelf. But before July, that was clearly the case. There was not an incentive for a lot of providers to ensure that they had tested products. And because of that, a vast majority of the products were failing general testing. So the industry over the last really 2.5 months has gone through an absolute fundamental shift. And we've certainly benefited from that, but we've also suffered from that in our retail dispensary, where we've had to change out so many different vendors because we haven't been able to get consistent product on our shelves.
Wow. Yeah, let's talk about other partners. We talked about Headset. You and I originally met when I worked at OnFleet.
Yeah.
You use Trellis, I believe, which is another close company to us. Maybe give some advice for founders or people that are trying to build products that you would use. Is there something in the world that doesn't exist that you wish were there?
Credit card payments.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I think.
But that's interesting. I mean, there's a lot of sort of like crypto solutions there that haven't caught on. I mean, what do you think of what's available and out there?
Well, I think back to your question around just advice to founders. I think it's I think the general focus is a cookie cutter focus out in the cannabis industry today, and I'm looking forward to see that change. But the vast majority of companies look to the largest potential market size by customers and would say, okay, if there's 418 dispensaries in California and you broaden that out to the United States, the average dispensary does $1 million to $2 million in sales and is essentially a retailer not vertically integrated. Mm-hmm. What I would love to see is that there were ERP type of systems or other types of systems that would actually say, you know what, we are analogous to the Oracle or the SAP or the Salesforce of cannabis, and we know that we're actually going for a very complex, large scale vertically integrated company, because if we get that right, we think we can scale down. But because it's a lower cost to be able to produce and easier to be able to scale, a lot of the technology companies at least have started with that kind of smaller footprint.
That's also what they have access to.
It's what they have access to, but what I've generally found in terms of having a background in technology, the use case that you're going to see there's going to be some limit in terms of how much they're going to push your software and how much they're going to use. So I'm hopeful that people take on really hard challenges.
Like credit cards?
Well, sure. Payments, subscriptions, delivery, inventory, merchandising, sell-through, all the traditional things that happen in retail. I mean, if the biggest challenge today that I think is unmet by anybody in the cannabis industry is a product information management system that manages and helps update different menus and products and manages inventories. So if you ask most dispensary managers, they're clicking and poking and updating their weed maps and updating their meadow and updating their shelves, and it's all a manual process. These dispensary managers, they work 6 to 7 days a week, 12 plus days. So how do you make their lives easier? And how do you really go after the bigger significant challenges? So I'm hopeful to see more complex solutions from third-party partners there in the future.
And I think the perception is that a lot of the smaller shop owners are not data focused, they're sort of not as tech savvy. Is that a stereotype, or you think there's some truth to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the reality is, if you've ever walked in the shoes of a small business owner, let alone a small dispensary owner, it's just hard. It is so difficult. So in order to make their lives easier, I think anybody who's ever opened a dispensary has the smarts to do a lot of stuff well, and if they need a technical manual to learn the software is probably wrong, because I bet you they're using Instagram and they're using Facebook and they're using Ease and they don't need any help on that. So I wouldn't say that the tech savviness of a dispensary owner is an impediment to technology. I would say that technology needs to fit into what their business is, and sometimes the reality is people you can't just give them a login and password and say, hey, use this. You actually need to provide managed services to be able to help them out. So Yeah, so I think those are the people that will win, that will come in not just with data and technology, but will come in and say, hey, I can actually run this as a managed service for you. So looking forward to more of those complex problems being solved by really smart people out there.
Super exciting. You talked about sort of the scale of Caliva.
Sure.
How do you describe that? What are the metrics that you look at when you wake up in the morning? How does growth work for you?
Yeah, we look at one primary number, which is number of consumers served. So we have that up in a big screen at our office headquarters, and we're very focused on how many consumers have chosen Caliva. We're very focused on how many repeat customers that we have. We're very focused on what products that they are purchasing and from what channels that they are purchasing from. Mm-hmm. So we look at a lot of those demand metrics to really see, are we doing our job of making people know who Caliva is, being consistent and doing what we said we're going to do when they actually try that product, so that they'll come back. Mm-hmm. And do we have a right, the correct portfolio of products for them for their daily different cannabis needs. Mm-hmm. So I'd say those are the main areas of focus. Operationally, we obviously look at, do we have the right mix of production capacity, and are we doing that at a efficient manner and cost? And then we look at where's the future growth of our business, and where do we look to invest in terms of where consumers are asking for, and where we think even if consumers don't know what the next form factor of their product is, can we make some informed decisions for product development in this form factor?
Yeah, awesome transition about the future. There's the retail store here. There's a new one coming in LA. Did I get that right? Or
yeah, we'll have I'd say through different partnerships, we'll have increased, I'd say, retail and delivery options throughout the state, with all being around how do we make it easier for people to access Caliva products.
And other states? Are you thinking about that yet?
We've had great conversations with really high quality partners from other states. We've been fortunate that a lot of that has been inbound interest, and we're currently talking through co-licensing and co-branding relationships in a number of key states for us. Mm-hmm. Still very early on, but we're very, I'd say, encouraged by those conversations. And that's definitely on our list of planning and decisions to make of which ones we prioritize first.
And all this certainly is not cheap. How about fundraising? Where are you in that process?
Sure. So we are fundraising. So it's we've been fortunate to have early investors be part of the company and haven't had to go out to fundraise. We are now just having almost completed our initial first round of fundraising. So I can't comment too much on it because we're still in the middle of it, but I'd say that we will come out with an announcement at the end of October or early November about the completion of our initial round.
And these are going to be institutions? Are we still talking about high net worth individuals? What's the profile like?
Yeah, I think you'll see a mix of both. We've been so fortunate at Caliva to have what I think is the best roster of investors out there, and they span a great mix of people. But it's the amount of value add that they have, and the belief around that their consumers are looking for the most trusted brand in cannabis, and that Caliva has an ability to execute against that, has been humbling. But we're so excited about the partners that we have, and I think we'll talk more about that when we make the funding announcement. But yeah, we're really excited for the really diverse amount of investors that we have.
Well, just knowing what I know about the market at the moment, you're going to have no problem raising money. I think you must have a tremendous amount of interest here. I want to shift gears a little bit, just to you personally.
Sure.
Did you ever expect to be the CEO of this ever-growing cannabis conglomerate? I mean, where did you think your life would take you? I guess.
Yeah, I always joke that there's a whole bunch of people that try to make their life easier, and I've tried to do the opposite. I always try to say, hey, what's the next challenge, and how do you keep you on your toes? And for me, there's no more important mission than to be able to deliver a natural health and wellness option for people for the first time to really self-prescribe what that is for them. So there's nowhere else where I'd want to be able to put my time and energy. So I just think of it as a gift, a responsibility. I want to be as accountable as anything, but given that there are soon to be millions of people that are choosing Caliva for their natural health and wellness, I take that as a big responsibility. So no, I never saw or planned to be in this mix.
Yeah.
But I feel so fortunate to be leading a great team of 300 people, and my job is to make sure that they have the tools to get their job done and tell them where the goalpost is. So I hopefully am supporting them to help them achieve what we all want to achieve.
And how does that affect your schedule? I mean, your day must be crazy, different all the time. What's a normal day look like, or is there normal?
Yeah, I don't necessarily know it's normal, but a long time ago, I've given up my schedule being my own. So I think it's important that you have a certain cadence where you work and set boundaries with people in terms of communication, and I often make sure that I know if I send an email at 2:00 at night, that implies that somebody should be responding to me at at 2:20, and so I try to be very careful around what type of examples to be able to lead on that. But I think we actually do a pretty good job of setting a cadence around meetings, setting expectations of what's there, and if I find that you set great goalposts for people, that the conversations that you have are, hey, what can I do to remove obstacles to get to that goalpost? And it's a lot less firefighting and craziness that happens, but that still happens in the industry. Yesterday, somebody hit a power pole in somewhere in San Jose. There was a 5-mile power outage, and we had to go through all of our...
That was your day.
And we went through the business continuity manual and figured out how to get everything kind of backed up and running. And luckily our dispensary, was only down for an hour. But it's one of those things where you got to kind of plan for everything, and you hope to mitigate it. So
wow. And how about your relationship with cannabis these days? Has it evolved in your time here, or what kind of consumer are you today?
I love that we're in an industry where you can actually have a relationship with the product, right? I mean that to me is just that statement there. It's like I relate it to when people say, like coffee, or people say, can you give me my Starbucks, or can you give me my coffee? And you don't really say that, right? Can you give me my dinner? But that possession is there for coffee, and we see the exact same thing in cannabis. So I think for me, I look at it as more of just how much more knowledge and respect that I have for the plant and the process and the work that it goes into actually creating really great high quality products. But I've been really fortunate to have the ability to choose from a lot of great products to be able to integrate cannabis into my daily life, and that's been fantastic. And I never would have known that you can take lotions for pain, you can take mints to be able to help you go to sleep, you can take different gels for different issues. So the amount of products that are out there are just fantastic. Toasties are a huge hit with me and my friends, and with a lot of other people. Well, it's a very low dose option, and I think I personally I personally can attest to there is a market for microdosing, but it's been remarkable to see the amount of form factors and the very quality products, both with Caliva and our partners, that I'm able to use on an ongoing basis.
Well, I'm extremely impressed. I knew good things about you guys, but coming here and talking to you and seeing all this stuff, good luck. You guys are doing great work, and I hope you continue. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I think you guys are doing fantastic, so it's an honor to be on the show.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll give you a second to plug whatever you like. Are you guys hiring for anything, or how can the audience help you?
Yeah, please, we're hiring away, so go to caliva.com for sure. I appreciate that. We're hiring for everything from supply chain to drivers to wellness consultants to marketing people up and down the state. And then I'd say, check us out, check our products out on our favorite partner, ease.com, and check us out on caliva.menu if you're around the Bay Area and San Jose. And there's a broad selection of products on both.
Good stuff, Dennis. Thanks so much. This was great. Much appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.